It seems that I have done a very good job. The stage is set up. So may I ask you to put your hands together again to welcome our next speakers as well as a facilitator. Let's invite Ms. Winnie Ng. Hello, morning. The director of the Bauhinia Foundation Research Center. And our two panel members is Mr. Dirk Dolichau, director of Group Strategic Marketing of the Mirama Group. And Mr. Lai. Mr. Lai is CFO and head of talent engagement of the City Telecom Limited. I think Mr. Lai is has a very interesting title. He is the CFO, which is specialized in numbers, as well as talent engagement. So are you engaging the talents with the salary and the compensation package? And how do you do it creatively? We would really love to know. And over to you, Winnie. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent, for the introduction. And thank you for being on time. We are lucky that you are not 12 years late. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all of you were captivated by the enlightening keynote speeches of our two world leading figures and the global development of creative economies. We learned from John earlier about the principles of creative ecologies, and we also learned about the connectivity between creativity, imagination, learning, education, and even about risk and failures. He also talked about the psychological impact, say the iPad. Oh, I have my iPad here today, but I'm not an avid user. But I just feel more creative having my iPad with me here today. So, we also learned from Professor Krosik about the role of higher education to creative economy in the UK. But now let us take the stage back to Hong Kong and focus on the local scene. We've now entered a world of globalization, and competition among cities, it's not just about the pursuit of economic gain. It is also about creativity, innovation, and convergence of talents. It's also about how the society, in an all-inclusive way, the businesses, the people, the government, the non-government organization can partner together and create value through creativity and innovation. This is more important so for cosmopolitan and service economy like Hong Kong. Hong Kong, known as Asia's world city, which boasts of a service economy which totals over 93% of the city's GDP. And given the diversity of its service offerings, including financial services, the logistics and trading services, tourism, professional services, and others, and the spectrum of this service economy of Hong Kong is almost second to none in the world. Even though the creative industries in Hong Kong generate only about 4% of Hong Kong's GDP, numerous studies have indicated creativity is not just about the creative industries, it's across all sectors. It generates value for all disciplines of economic activities, and it has a lot to do with the city's sustained development. So let us take a look at what businesses in Hong Kong have done to make use of creativity and innovation to drive their businesses forward. First of all, let me ask Nick Lai of City Telecom to tell us about its business innovation. We all know here in Hong Kong that the founder of City Telecom is a maverick business leader. He institutes a very creative culture in City Telecom, which deviates from like many norms. So Nick, I pass the time on to you.
Thank you, Winnie. Today, maybe thank you for the opportunity to share and to learn from many of the innovations from around the world. Today, I'd like to bring you to what we're doing here in the local market and perhaps just share and exchange ideas on how we're developing our people. Just a little bit of background on our company. Over the last 11 years, we've put about 3.5 billion Hong Kong dollars into building a state-of-the-art fiber network. And over that decade, I have a 15-second demo to show you. So what do you get with a fiber network? On your left, is our service. It's a fiber to the home service, downloading a 1.7 gig Aaron Kwok high definition video in 17 seconds. On your right, it's a standard legacy DSL broadband service. That would take 52 minutes to download. A little bit of warning for our overseas guests. Please don't try the broadband service in Hong Kong, because when you go back, you may get very frustrated with the services overseas. So this is world class, and we charge $26 US for this service. That's why Hong Kong is considered a global entrepreneur for fiber access. We're featured on the New York Times. We charge $26 a month for this service, US. In the States, they charge $350. That's why in Hong Kong, it's a mass market service. In the States, it's a dream, it's a concept. Google is sponsoring a test bed for 1 gigabit services in Kansas City in a 250,000 population kind of test bed. In Hong Kong, we offer this to over 1 million households. Our approach is, a lot of people ask, do I need that much speed at home? What do I do with all the bandwidth with such a fat pipe? Our approach is, we're selling a Porsche 911 Turbo for less than the price of a Corolla. So does it really matter that the Turbo can go up to 300 kilometers an hour when the speed limit is only 100? Doesn't matter because it's cheaper than a Corolla, so why not? That's how we take market share. So in the last 3 years, we have gone from the smallest broadband provider in Hong Kong to the second largest and bigger than number 3 and number 4 combined. And we are aggressively chasing down the incumbent. A little bit of history. Our company was founded by Ricky and Paul, their cousins, local Hong Kong people, on 100,000 Canadian dollars, because they had migrated to Canada and come back. 10 people in Icehouse Street. And we compete against multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies. So we're an entrepreneurial startup in an industry that is traditionally limited to multinational infrastructure kind of conglomerates. So we had to use innovation and creativity to overcome our shortfalls. Today, we are listed on Hong Kong NASDAQ. We have over 3,000 colleagues, $1.5 billion in revenues, and so forth. A little bit of my background. I used to run telecom equity research for Credit Suisse. So I'm an investment banker by trade. I was a telecom analyst for over 10 years. I looked at telecom companies around the world. This was my best recommendation after a decade of research. So in 2004, I sold my home and I bought 2% equity in the company, and I took an 80% pay cut to join. So that was about 7 years ago. Our approach to competition is that if we take on the incumbent by traditional means, we will always lose because we are at a massive disadvantage. We don't have the capital, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the legacy. So we change the rules of the game and have a disruptive industry. We think, for example, if David took on Goliath in a wrestling match, we would not be talking about David today. David took down Goliath because he never got close. He took him down with a sling. It wasn't a hand-to-hand combat. That's how we approach competition. We have to change the rules of the game. We're very proud of what we've contributed to Hong Kong. In the 90s, we invented, or Ricky and Paul in particular, invented callback. Callback is why Hong Kong has such great value long-distance services today, international long-distance services today. In the 90s, what happened was in Canada, the market liberalized before Hong Kong. So the cost of a Hong Kong call to Canada was about $8 per minute, Hong Kong dollars. The cost of a Canada call to Hong Kong was $2 a minute because they liberalized the market well before Hong Kong. Hong Kong had a monopoly. So Ricky and Paul invented callback, changed the direction of the call, and allowed people from Hong Kong to call Canada at $4 a minute, but have a cost base of $2 a minute. So what industries do you know where you can have a 50% discount to the incumbent and enjoy a 50% gross margin? And we've been making money ever since '92. For approaching 20 years now, we have not had a year of loss in our long distance business. The rates have collapsed from about $10 a minute. You remember in the old days, it used to be extremely expensive to make a long distance call, to about 40 cents a minute today. But we still enjoy 60% gross margins on that business today. So we're still making money. So our approach is change the rules of the game. In the 90s, 20 years ago, we used callback to break into the international long-distance market. 10 years ago, we started investing in fiber well before people thought fiber was needed. And 2 weeks ago, we announced we're going to be making movies and drama content for the Chinese internet market. So this conference is very much in line with what we're thinking of. One thing I would emphasize as a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, we make a lot of money doing what we do. We offer fantastic value for our customers, disruptive value. We change the rules of the game, but we make great margins. A lot of people perceive Hong Kong telecom market to be overly competitive, price wars, a gig to the home for $26 a month, etc. But we generate 20% net margin, 19% return on capital. These are margins that are similar to Apple. So if you imagine in the Hong Kong telecom industry, a company can make as much money as selling iPads, devices that you don't really need. That's what we are generating for our shareholders today by offering disruptive value to our customers. A little bit about our company, our core vision statement. A lot of companies have core vision statements, but you can change the name of the company and you wouldn't know the difference. Most generic statements have something about shareholder value creation and be nice to the environment. It's very kind of generic. Ours is very specific to us. It's handwritten by Ricky and signed off by the rest of the management team. It starts off with to experience the emotion of competition, winning and crushing competition. In the middle, it's very specific. We will become the largest broadband provider in Hong Kong by 2016. So this is our 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal that we set in 2006. And 5 years into that goal, we are well on track. And the most important part about our vision statement is it ends with, my children will say, Dad, I love you as my father. This means that we want to make a positive, lasting legacy to the Hong Kong community. And I think we've done that in the last 20 years. We've made Hong Kong a lot cheaper to make international calls. It used to be too expensive to speak to your relatives in China. Today, it's like irrelevant, the price. We've made broadband a reality for the mass market, a gig to the home, world-class broadband for the mass market, etc. A lot of people misunderstand our company. They look at us Hong Kong Broadband Networks, as a fiber company, as a technology company. We win a lot of industry awards for our technology. But in reality, we are a people company. We have 3,000 colleagues in our company. Our single largest expense at over $500 million a year is salary and people costs. That's more than anything else that we spend. That's more than what we spend on technology, on hardware. So we are, in fact, a people company. We are not a hardware company. We are not a marketing company, although that's what we are better known for. We think differently. Last year, we took our top 90 executives to Germany for a one-week trip. It ranged from sleeping in a tent in the Black Forest to visiting the Porsche factory to visiting other industries. So it's a really wide range experience. What we hope is to stretch people's exposure, to give them experiences that you can't get in Hong Kong. For example, you can all go wine tasting in Hong Kong at Watson's stores, but how many of us have the opportunity to sit in the vineyard, have the master wine creator come and talk us through the process of turning grapes into wine, enjoying a glass of Riesling in the sun. That's what we were exposed to. And hopefully when we come back, we have a bigger appreciation for wine. That's the kind of education or learning that we hope to expose our talents to. But the most important meeting that we had and really impacted our thinking was, we saw Porsche, massive company, but we saw a little family farm that's been in the same family for 500 years. The farmer came and welcomed us and told us he's going to go in the afternoon to cut down trees that his grandfather planted. It takes 80 years to grow. And in the process, plant trees for his grandchild to cut down. I think this long-term thinking is what makes great companies. It's not quarterly thinking. Creativity doesn't happen in blocks of 3 months. Creativity takes time to nurture, to invest. It took us 7 years of negative free cash flow in building our fiber network to have a competitive advantage today. Not a lot of public companies have the holding power of 7 years of negative cash flow. Many public companies will change their CEOs and change the strategy many times before we hit that inflection point. We did because we believed in that business case. I sold my home to buy 2% of this company because I believed fiber was the future. When I saw it, when Ricky drew the diagram on the napkin, that was that wow moment. I thought, I'm going to sell my home for this. Our approach to educating or to motivating our people is we believe inspiration is much more powerful than motivation. With inspiration, we can get 2 to 3 times productivity gain. With motivation, you might motivate someone to 20 to 30% extra efficiency gain. Inspiration is about a mindset change. Motivation is a skill set upgrade. It's very similar to what John talked about, learning versus training. This is why in our company, we don't have a training and development division. We have a learning and development division. If you read our vision statement, which is available on the website, one thing I would like to draw attention to is change. We state we regularly change what can be changed after a certain period of time, even though we may not foresee any gain at the moment. We encourage attempts. What do we mean by this? A lot of companies say change if you can see improvement. That's a no-brainer. If you're walking along the road and you see a block of gold, you pick it up. What takes courage and time and risk appetite is digging for gold that you don't see. It's like John's points about creativity. It's more about failures and success. It's about having 10 attempts, failing 9 out of 10 times, being able to afford the failures, but having one great success. And people remember you for the success and not for the failures. So that's what we are consistently doing. We are consistently pushing our colleagues to fail. I will end with a video. This is a colleague of mine. He's been with the company a decade. We have 3,000 colleagues in the company. Most of us do not have a university degree. We started working from high school and are the primary income earner. Unfortunately, we don't have the sound hooked up, but let me see what I can do here. I'll read part of it. So, at our company, we have this program called Next Station University. We are putting about 50 of our colleagues through a university degree from the University of Wales over a 4-year period. And we get the accredited professors to come to our offices to teach in Hong Kong and our Guangzhou office. So this allows our people to balance a full-time job and earn a university degree. This is a dream that I have given up. So Lam is my colleague. You know, he's been with the company for about 10 years. He came up to me at our annual dinner and said, this is in December last year, that my parents are looking forward to my graduation in 2 years' time. And if my grandfather is still around, he's going to be coming too. I'm going to be the first child in my family of 4 siblings to get a university degree. Now, he is extremely excited. How we see this investment is we may lose money on these 50 colleagues. It costs about 100,000 Hong Kong dollars, and we sponsor 80 to 90% of the fees. We may lose money on 50 people, but we hope those 50 people will inspire 3,000 colleagues to much greater heights. And I'm talking about, inspiration of 2, 3, 4 times productivity gains. I'm not talking about 10, 20% efficiency gains. Lam is definitely an inspiration to me. He is balancing between being the primary household earner, his family. He also ran a half marathon as part of our company program. He talks about, basically in this video, he talks about this is his second chance and he doesn't want to give it up. His first chance was given to him by his parents when he was a kid. His second chance at getting a university degree is today, and he's going to go for it. So I just spent a little bit of time sharing with you our past 20 years or so. In the next decade or so, we hope to make a real impact in Chinese content creation. We have got a block of land in the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park that we will build a studio up to 500,000 square feet. And we hope to create innovative, interactive content for the Chinese internet market. If you think about Hong Kong, we used to be the epicenter of creativity for content. Think about Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Chow Yun-fat, John Woo, all from Hong Kong, all our local neighbors. But we've lost some of that creativity in the last decade or so. We hope to restart, reinitiate that kind of creativity back into Hong Kong. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Nick, for sharing with us your very creative company policy of how to be a disruptive company and making disruptive profit. Well, we have another speaker from Hong Kong today, and it's Dirk Dali Chow. He's the director of Group Strategic Marketing of Miramar Group, and people in Hong Kong have seen the remarkable transformation of the Mira brand. He's in charge of conceptualizing the Mira Hong Kong and overseeing the hotel's transformation. Dirk, why don't you tell us more about the innovation that has taken place?
Thank you. I need to stand. I can't think when I sit, so that's why. I got very excited a moment ago because actually the gentleman who's doing the sound, his phone went off, so I thought we'd probably see our first dance. But then I thought since he's doing the sound and controlling most of our speeches, maybe we won't insist. So let me tell you, my name is Dirk. I came to Hong Kong 4.5 years ago, as Uni said, mostly to conceptualize and open the Mira Hong Kong, which was a 50-year-old hotel, and we completely transformed and repositioned it. I have since moved back to the corporate office to look at new concepts, new developments, and also take care of the marketing, basically looking at our vision and our strategy, how we can transform or do what we did with the Mira for the rest of the company. A few words just on Miramar, so you understand a little bit. And I want to say these things because when we talk about creative economy, we often think, and it was mentioned many times, about film and media and dance and art and design. But creativity is needed in every single business that is around. It is vital to kind of survive and to differentiate yourself from the competition. So I would like to shift that thought away from just the obvious creative economies. We're part of Henderson Land, which is a big property developer who have other businesses. We're one of them. And we are in hospitality, apparel, fashion apparel, property and retail, food and beverage, and also travel. It's a company that has been around for 50 years. And as you can imagine, coming in as a guaylo, as they say here, and trying to kind of introduce some Western thinking processes and elements into a company that was very traditional Chinese was not easy. But it has been an amazing learning experience for me, and I love Hong Kong. But I do, as a critical, challenging, and controversial person, think although it is probably the fastest paced moving city in the world, it moves extremely fast, but somehow nothing ever seems to change. We're a company of about 1,600 employees, Henderson 7,700 and plus. Our turnover is about 272 million last year. And I'm going to show you a few of our businesses. This is actually our hotel and service apartment sectors. We have a number of restaurants in the city here in Hong Kong. We also travel. We're actually the first official assigned space agent for Virgin Galactic. So if you ever plan to travel to the moon or into space, you can contact us. Absolutely. We have shopping malls, and we are going to open a new mall Q1 next year. Spa. We also have online retail business like Wine Loft, which is a wine distribution company. We do DKNY jeans distribution, so in the fashion apparel business. And here's a few projects. We recently launched an Italian restaurant, Assaggio, in the Hong Kong Arts Center, Sabotan, Japanese tonkatsu, Yunyan Sichuan restaurant, Hide-chan, a Japanese ramen, French Window, an ISC, French gourmet restaurant, revamped Chow Village, both in TST and in Central. We're opening, as we speak, Beijing Cuisine, a concept here in Hong Kong, 2 Michelin star award-winning restaurant in these few weeks. And then also in a couple of weeks in Wuhan, a huge space of 71,000 square foot with ballroom, etc., introducing there very much a Chicago theme to quite a traditional environment as well, so it will be challenging. New shopping mall, as I said, new service apartment, but I'm going to block the pictures because it's only launching at the end of this year, so I don't want to give you too much information. And the same with a boutique hotel that we're launching next year in Wan Chai, together with a creative team, you and Marcel Wanders from Europe. And we haven't released these to the press yet, nor the name, so I'm going to give you more suspense about that now. The need to encourage creativity, and as I said, we are in an increasingly competitive market. You saw our different business units. We need to differentiate. We need to kind of make a difference and compete in this market. And design alone, although we're very design-based, is not sustainable. It is very short-lived. So we need to differentiate through customer interaction, evolving products, etc. That will need to make the difference. Our companies nowadays are extremely exposed and very transparent through internet, through online communication of employees, of customers, etc. So people really understand what we're doing, how we're doing it. And you know, as Miramar is a company that is dramatically changing, we really need to rely on our people very much more so than on our customers, because I think our people basically, you know, create the basis for great customer interaction. And when I say that, it is really about creating an environment that is very encouraging to creativity. I feel that in Hong Kong there is an enormous potential, and even though there was a lot of percentages up there, how many people are in the creative industry, etc. For me, everybody is creative still now. It doesn't stop once you are 16, etc. And I think you can nurture it. You have to provide an environment. In Hong Kong, I feel that very often, and I had this experience very much when I first came, there is creativity, but people are extremely reluctant to express it. They're very scared to kind of say the wrong things, to do the wrong things, etc. Very often in a one-to-one conversation, they have amazing ideas, and I will give you a few, like, you know, that we experience in our company. But they are being taught from a very early age onwards in their educational system, blend in, don't stand out, don't speak up, don't cause trouble. When I go to university events, everybody is dressed in black suits and white shirts. They are very much conditioned to not kind of be different. And I think this is where we have to actually start. We have to create this culture already in the educational sector, very early on, when they're at school, when they're at university, and then subsequently when we employ them as companies. This is actually one of the reasons why Hong Kong still, to some degree, relies on Western foreigners' influences. Not because they're more brilliant or they're better, it's just because they are taught from an early age to speak up, be different, be loud, and say what you think. So it's really about kind of changing the environment here from an early age, within the companies, within the educational system, to nurture that creativity that exists in Hong Kong. The other part is, all of us as companies, there's a massive requirement on talented workforce, and the needs of this workforce is changing drastically. I'm going to say a few words about Gen Y, because these are the people now between 17 and 32, which are actually the fastest growing segment of today's workforce. So we have to change, as companies, our way of behaving, our way of interacting with them. A few elements, and this is based on a Cornell University research together with Queensland, Australia. A few elements about Gen Y. Grew up in affluent environment with global economic prosperity and low unemployment. Have low tolerance for boredom. Selective in the way they receive information. They're more interactive, the better. They never read written manuals. You send it to them, an iPod application, and yes, they will probably have a look at it. They live longer at home. And there's also this Hong Kong one-child syndrome. You know, you have to understand, these people, they have no siblings. The parents put all their focus on them. They constantly encourage them and tell them how wonderful they are. So they expect the same in the companies. So as a company, we have to constantly remind them of how well they work and how good they are. They're highly demanding. unafraid to express their opinions, expect respect and responsibility. They want to be part of something worthwhile, and that means they want to participate, they want to be creative, and they see constant feedback, as I said, expect a range of non-traditional rewards and work flexibility. They value socially and environmentally active workspaces, and they need to feel involved. And when you look at that, this is an extremely important segment in our workforce. I think still now, for some Hong Kong companies, it's still difficult to deliver that. So we have to think about that, because we will be relying on these people. Just 3 ideas quickly, which I researched from young people. And this is where I think we always forget. Our employees, often in their day outside of work, they manage clubs and associations. They are the treasurer of these associations. They organize big weddings. They have tremendous potential, but we sometimes forget and don't allow them to give a free coffee to a complaining guest in a hotel, because we have to check, and we are not trusting them to take the right decision in the right moment. Here, for example, 4 young men from Guatemala at university, they actually invented a wheelchair for Guatemala, which is 10 times cheaper than the American version, out of bike parts, basically. And it was also modeled so it fits the Guatemala terrain, which is very, very rough. Daniel Burr, a 16-year-old guy from Waterloo, he invented a solution that decomposes plastic. Basically, he grinds it up and then mixes it with common household chemicals such as dirt and yeast, etc. And it dissolves in 3 months, which is a tremendous discovery for the world. And this 8th grader, he invented painted plastic decals for windows, and this could be relevant for Hong Kong as well. It's an ultraviolet color, so the birds see it, but humans don't. So it's not really that ugly on the windows, because he found out that 500 million birds in a year in Mexico, US, and Canada alone die. These kids are just brilliant, but they're just expressing their ideas, and there's a lot more potential like this around. A few words to Mira. We wanted to go from pretty much this, to something that looked like this. And it's not just hardware. This was also in terms of behavior, in terms of how we do things. From a, sort of traditional way of doing service to something that looks a little bit more like this. And this is in a hotel. This is our real people, so we had a lot of fun doing this. We damaged a few glass vases and things on the way, but it was nice. Implementation at Miramar. How can I say that? Apart from providing, an environment where they really feel they can speak up and they can contribute, we actually made it a little bit more how can I say it? Well, we made it part of our philosophy and our culture. For example, we have balanced scorecards. Some of you might use the same in terms of targets and things. Innovative solutions is actually part of that balanced scorecard. We are being measured of providing ideas and solutions. And you can say, well, that's a little bit kind of weird. You kind of force people to be creative. It is more about actually the department heads to kind of, encourage that environment in their departments to kind of listen and pass these ideas on, because there's a lot of ideas that used to be stuck in middle management and never reached actually those who would make a decision. We introduced a management development program mostly targeted at Gen Y, where they have a balance of education with Cornell University and some training companies here in Hong Kong, where they encourage to really kind of look at the business processes and encourage a change process. We're encouraging an environment. Before, when I came, when people would do something wrong and there was a mistake, they would get memos and punishments and warnings, and they would get fired, etc. We really, and it was said earlier, we really kind of looked at, we encouraged making mistakes, because for us it was a learning experience, and we kind of said, listen, this is how we could do it better, and this is how we do it in the future. But we really kind of wanted to let them know there is a different way of doing it. It is not bad. Be proactive, especially in our industry. Be proactive, be spontaneous, and we had to kind of let them know that this is acceptable and something we want. We have monthly gatherings where people get up to go on stage and introduce their new ideas and talk about it. And people vote on what's the best idea, and they get the cash prize or a shopping voucher, etc. And we also changed our back of house, our team facilities, and I'm going to show you a few renderings actually. It's just very bright offices, where you come in and you don't have your little dingy box and you can't see any of your colleagues. We created team restaurants that actually look like nice restaurants outside, where we would normally go in your spare time. we have a Mind Lab or think tank, which is actually based on a think tank. It's like you have the jellyfish up there, etc., where people can go in and just relax, sit on the floor, write on the glass with their ideas, etc. Sometimes we have to get rid of what they wrote because it's not always fun. But overall, it is about to encourage them to just sit in there and then just, kind of have fun and think about different things. Because most of the time, good ideas, you hardly ever have them at work. I mean, I never have good ideas at work, to be quite honest. When I walk home, maybe, or when I take a shower, but at work, you're so wrapped up in your daily operational business. So we want to give them spaces where they can actually start to think differently. We have sleep rooms, where they can go in and take naps and sleep, doing shifts, etc. And I actually discovered this. I saw some chefs before sleeping on boxes in the storeroom. I'm not sure whether they were supposed to sleep, but we thought if they do, then we might as well give them some decent beds and get them to rest properly. Just nice changing rooms, which look like nice fitness facilities, etc., to make them feel good and appreciated and tolerated. These are interview and meeting rooms. The green one is an interview room. The others are meeting rooms based on basically the green one on the lower left-hand corner is based on the Eastern culture, the tree people, and the right one is based on the Western people, the cave people. It is just about when people go into a meeting to not kind of think, oh my God, I'm going to another meeting. I have to be, I have to think about it and be creative. We want them to come into an environment where they have fun, kind of like, this is great. I love sitting on a wooden chair that's really uncomfortable, but it kind of makes me think in different ways. It's just a different environment. Playroom. It took me a lot of time to kind of convince my bosses to have a playroom because they felt that people were just playing all the time. But it's creating an environment where they have fun, where they interact with each other, where they want to be, and where they kind of discuss about things and also have different ideas. So just a few, and I just picked 3 very, very quickly ideas from my team members. We renovated one of our very traditional restaurants recently and kind of revamped the menus a little bit and the design to kind of come up with more contemporary outlook for the whole company. We got rid of the traditional fish tank as you see in most companies, in most Chinese restaurants. But they said, there's still customers who would like to see the fish that they're going to get served, etc. And in line with the slightly more contemporary positioning, the idea is to actually have it both on an iPad, where you can have a live feed into our fish tank and you can kind of pick your fish, and also project it onto a wall so you can see actually the fish that we have in the back in a very nice fish tank. It is a different way of showing a fish tank, but I think it's a very neat idea. Somebody introduced to us an energy-saving device. It's actually a capacity bank storing waste power, which will save us 400,000 Hong Kong dollars a month just by saving the energy that we haven't used and reuse it later. We had business centers in our hotels, etc., and they said, well, it's power, people working there, you have office space, and, coming from a property developer, revenue per square foot is extremely important. So they said, get rid of that, let people sit in their own rooms or in the bar wherever they want, just have wireless printers, faxes, etc. If they print something out, we bring it to their room, etc., and we're just simply getting rid of the business center. And these are just some ideas which come from regular workers, some in stewarding and some in accounting, and nothing about finance. I mean, there's a lot of creative finance people. Not many, but a few. There is a lot of talent out there and a lot of ideas, and all of these help our business tremendously. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. It's, again, Steve Jobs, it was quoted before. But I think if we really nurture the talent we have, if we create an environment that lets them express it and that allows to be innovative and creative, I think in Hong Kong and in the world we can make a massive difference with our companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I now know why I'm facilitating this panel is because when we talk about creativity, we also talk about passion, we talk about energy, we talk about vibes. And I'm sitting in the middle because I have to balance out disruptive energy from my left, Nick, and the jumping energy from my right. Today, we also have Nicholas Rhodes. He's a course director in product and industrial design from St. Martin's, Central St. Martin's, and he's worked for many international concerns like luxury brands LV, champagne wine, cosmetics like Molton Brown, and also government agencies like London Development Agency. Nicholas, we would like to hear from you any experiences you'd like to share with us, and also as an outsider, how do you see the creative scene and culture in Hong Kong?
Right, so that's an easy one to start with, isn't it? I think there are a number of challenges. Some are more obvious and on the surface than others. It's interesting to note that the conventional way that businesses run, not just here but universally, are to try and minimize risk as far as is possible. So you have a management process that is looking not to make mistakes. When what we really have to do is to have a risk-positive attitude where we allow innovation and to try things out. Now, it's very easy for me to say that. It's very, very difficult in practice to make that happen. And I think there are significant gulfs between business practice and those of creative practitioners. I mean, I'm working in the field of design. And the design students and people I work with are often shrugging their shoulders or say, well, this is such a great idea, why don't they go for it? And that's because they don't really understand the imperatives and the weight that's resting on the shoulders of a lot of people in business. And so there's this non-communication aspect that has to be bridged somehow. And I think there are certain respects in which universities and art schools, in my case, are partly responsible for trying to make that, trying to bridge that gap. I would bring one example that I think is quite interesting, is the Finnish disposition when it comes to innovation and knowledge economies. Back in the 90s, the Finnish government decided that they needed to move to a knowledge and innovation economy. It's a small country, and this is where they saw the future. Now, this is back in the 90s, and you think how enlightened this was back then, and they threw an awful lot of energy and resources at this particular idea. That has now filtered down through all aspects of government and out into the public space. Very, very briefly, I just want to tell you about one of the initiatives that emerged. And that was to take three existing, long-standing universities of great repute, one with specific expertise in business and management, one with design and art, and another in engineering, and bring them together to form one institution. It's called Aalto University now, and it combines these three universities who work together. There are all sorts of aspects to this which I think are quite interesting. One in particular I really like, which is the outward turning of the activities of these institutions to the world to make them open. Because one of the things that have already come up has been this idea that actually what you have to do is have a public engagement. You have to be feeding outputs back into the world and to have them become sort of digested and then brought back. And one of these initiatives is called Design Factory. And Design Factory is there specifically to turn the activities of the university out to the world and to bring the world in. And essentially this is a workspace that has a particular characteristics, but industries can come in, they can use the space, they can set up and sponsor projects that may be short-term, maybe long-term. Nokia has a space that they rent semi-permanently in one of the design factories, as does Kona, the big lift company. And these activities are taking place in and out. And they're turning the university activities outside and making them available. And so far, I think they've had about 15 startup companies that are predominantly be coming from the design area. And I think that's a very, very interesting initiative.
You've also worked for international brand names like LV. In Hong Kong, all the streets are just, everywhere you go, it's all brand names, luxury brand names. LVs are just on the same street, maybe one or two LV stores. So, well, what are your thoughts about this?
It can be very dull. And really, it's quite interesting, the identikit nature of some high streets, which is sort of crushing the local and the granular, the particular characteristics of a specific environment, which really do need to survive. And this does run counter to sort of creative activity. So I think there are some things that need to be looked at in that connection for sure. I'd also like to perhaps reinforce some other points. My own institution, Central St Martin's in London, is moving as we speak to a new building which will, for the first time in about 100 years, will bring all its courses together under one roof. I think this is a fantastic opportunity. mostly not because of the sort of the change to any of the teaching, but the fact that all the people who are studying acting, design, painting, scenography, fashion, will actually be bumping into each other in the street that constitutes the ground floor. This is an area about the same width as Oxford Street, which is why it's called a street. And we'll be spending time drinking coffee, getting up to mischief. And this is a really, really important aspect of how you can begin to promote and to bring creativity together. It's not something we can legislate for, but it tends to happen, we know, in these interactions between people in such environments.
And we all know that there's a cultural development in Hong Kong, the West Kowloon. It's actually attracted international media because of the exit of the ex-CEO, and now we have a new CEO, Michael Lynch. John, could you give us a few thoughts on the development of the creative economy in Hong Kong with regards to the development of West Kowloon?
Thank you. The West Kowloon question. I've been hearing these conversations for a number of years, and I should make a confession that I was one of many advisors to Rocco, so I'm on the losing side here. I thought we put in a good bid, but it wasn't as good as my Lord Foster's bid. I admire what Hong Kong is doing in West Kowloon, but I'm not sure it's going to provide a solution to some of the questions that have been asked. So I think it's an admirable venture. Patrick Ho, who was the Minister of Home Affairs and in charge of the initial development of West Kowloon, said that the purpose was really to get people who were visiting Hong Kong to double their average stay from 2 days to 4 days. And I think it might go for some way to do that. But as we've heard this morning already, creativity bubbles up in the most surprising places. We've heard today of two astonishing companies, one of which, interestingly, was a reinvention of an existing company, the other a brand new startup, that grew of their own accord, not against government policy, but really out of commercial imperatives, and using creativity in every single part of their operations. There's a great remark by an American advertising creative director, which was that creativity is the last remaining legal way to get an advantage over the competition. And it's true. And these two case studies have showed that. So, I wish Kowloon success. But if I'm looking for creativity for new companies, for funky stuff, for what will attract young people to go back again and again and again, to go live there, to go work there, to go play there, to meet friends there, to have unexpected things happening to them, they won't go to West Kowloon. They'll go elsewhere. They'll find their own niches, their own habitats, their own friends, their own people, their own bars, their own cafes, their own shops. They'll start their own businesses in nooks and crannies, not in the big, wide, glossy spaces. And it's very important that Hong Kong allows that to happen, encourages that to happen, and that's often a question, as Geoffrey Crossick remarked, of property prices and zoning laws. I look forward to the bubbling up of creativity that is already happening in Hong Kong. I look forward to that happening. That will happen all over Hong Kong, not just in West Kowloon. We need both, but we mustn't concentrate too much on the West Kowloon project.
Thank you, John. You told us that earlier that creativity is also about learning, about imagination, and I believe Hong Kong right now is in the process of learning to move forward as a creative economy. Like West Kowloon is part of that. It's definitely not the whole solution. And we learned from Nick and Dirk, two successful business case on making use of creativity to drive their businesses forward. And we also learned from Nick Rhodes from Central St. Martin about what's happening to the school. They're going to have a new school. I think everything will be adding up. Creativity is a means to help us to drive economic activities forward. So thank you very much. Thank you for speaking at today's panel. Well, let us give us our panel speakers some applause.
Well, thank you for our first panel. Thank you very much. Before we go for 5 minutes, exactly 5 minutes break, I would like to drop two thoughts for you, some reflections. First of all, I think for creativity, there's one very central element from all presenters and respondents is how to provide intrinsic motivation beyond money, beyond compensation to your employees. I think this is really important for businesses, and I think there are a lot of research in that area too, how to provide intrinsic motivation to your employees, to your staff, to your partners. And then also other thought is that how the leaders decided when to compromise and when not to compromise for new ideas. I think this is really, really important because in a lot of research, a good idea, but being compromised, is actually worse than a bad idea. They can bring more damages to a company, to a corporation. So I'll leave you with this thought with a coffee, and we have to start the panel number exactly in 5 minutes because we have two panels before 1 o'clock. All right, see you in 4 minutes and 55 seconds.